What do you get when two brothers from the same Appalachian town decide they're both going to run for governor? Why, you get a new story, of course. Hello, folks. I'm Steve Gilley, along with Rod Mullins, and this is Stories, A History of Appalachia. For today's story, we go to the East Tennessee town of Elizabethton in Carter County, circa 1886. You see, that year there was a race for the governorship of Tennessee. The Democrats selected Robert Love Taylor for their candidate. Now, Mr. Taylor, born on July 31st, 1850 in Happy Valley, was the nephew of Landon Carter Haynes, the Speaker of the Tennessee House, and a Confederate senator, and the son of Nathaniel Green Taylor, a Methodist minister who'd lost the race for the 1st Congressional District of Tennessee to Andrew Johnson the year before. Bob Taylor worked as a farmer, producer of iron, and finally as a lawyer in Jonesboro. Bob ran for Congress in the 1st Congressional District in 1878 and won, becoming one of the very few Democrats to represent East Tennessee in Congress. He ran for the Senate in 1881 but lost, after which he helped found the Johnson City Comet newspaper.
I like that name, the Comet newspaper.
It was a very famous newspaper of the time.
The name of it is unique. I like it. Alfred Alexander Taylor was Robert's brother, but he didn't share his political affiliation. Alf, as he was known, ran for the Republican nomination for Congress in 1878, but lost, which led to his brother's run and eventual win. Alfred was the older of the two, born in Happy Valley on August 6, 1848. He attended the forerunner to Milligan College until the Civil War, when Nathaniel Taylor, a staunch Unionist, moved the family to the north to avoid the fighting in Tennessee. In 1867, Alf went with his father, who had been appointed the Commissioner of Indian Affairs by his old rival, President Andrew Johnson, to Kansas to take part in an effort to negotiate peace with the Indians and end the Plains War. The elder Taylor was partially successful, helping negotiate the Medicine Lodge Treaty, and after returning home, Alf Taylor studied law and set up a practice in Jonesboro.
Alf was elected to the Tennessee House in 1874, serving one term before his unsuccessful run for Congress in 1878. Now, in 1886, the Republican Party selected Alf Taylor as its nominee for governor against his brother, Bob Taylor. And thus what's known as the War of the Roses began. Now, just so you know, there are 3 historical events known as the War of the Roses. The first, a real war, was in England between the Lancasters and the Yorks over the English throne. The second is the one we're telling you today. And the third was in the late 1910s and involved the passage of the Women's Suffrage Amendment in Tennessee. That, though, folks, is a story for another podcast episode. Well, you see, Bob told the crowds he and his brother / political opponent were, quote, roses from the same garden, end quote, causing the respective supporters of Robert Taylor and Alfred Taylor to start wearing either white or red roses to show their support for their chosen candidate in the campaign.
Well, what a campaign it was, Steve. The two brothers conducted joint appearances across the state of Tennessee, beginning first in Madisonville on September 9th. The two men were natural storytellers, and both were fiddle players, so most of the campaigning involved stories, speeches, fiddling, and playing practical jokes on each other. As they moved from place to place, they gathered larger and larger crowds, folks who had come to see the show. At a stop in Chattanooga, for example, the two were welcomed by a joint committee of Republicans and Democrats. They were then to be allotted time for speeches from the balcony of their hotel. Both men wanted to make the best possible impression they could. Alf, in fact, had spent days crafting a completely new speech, which he was going to premiere that very night, hoping to impress the crowd. He decided to leave the hotel for a bit to visit friends before he made that speech. As he was talking with his friends outside the hotel, he noticed Bob start to speak to the crowd. As he listened, Alf found Bob's speech sounded vaguely familiar. Then it hit him. Robert Taylor had stolen the speech that Alfred had spent so many days carefully planning. Here's just a part of that speech for you.
The illustrious dreamers and creators in the realm of music, the Mozarts, the Beethovens, the Handels, the Mendelssohns, have scaled the purple steps of the heaven of sweet sounds. unbarred its opal gates, and opened its holy of holies to the rapt ear of the world. In their wonderful creations of melody, they've given a new interpretation and a sweeter tongue to nature and an audible voice to the music of the stars. Surely humanity can never forget God or our civilization sink to a lower plane while their works endure. That, Rod, is what you call a speech.
That is. That just what I think someone would say. Jerry Clower might say he forever shucked the corn down to the cob.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay. Well, as Bob spoke, Alf left his friends and rushed to his room, only to find, yes, his manuscript was gone. Bob had it, and he didn't return it until he had read Alf's speech in its entirety to the crowd below, leaving poor Alfred with nothing new to say.
Well, Alfred got his revenge a few days later. Alf came upon a group of rabid supporters of Robert Taylor known as Our Bob supporters, and they had mistaken Alfred Taylor for his brother. So, well, yeah, naturally, Alf took full advantage of it. You see, the Our Bob people had hoped that Robert would give them a little nip, so to speak, to strengthen their resolve, common practice in campaigns at that time. And Alf knew this. So, pretending to be his brother, he climbed atop a nearby table and proclaimed himself to be a temperance man. He told the crowd that he would not be responsible for putting a drop of the, quote, enemy in their mouths. He went on to declare,
"Before I would be instrumental in polluting your lips with a single drop of this hellish stuff you call for, even though it bore the brand of good old Lincoln County, I would surrender my nomination, give up the race entirely, and allow Alf Taylor to be elected governor of the volunteer state."
Figuring they weren't going to get any of the good stuff, the stunned crowd dispersed quickly.
They played those fiddles as a part of the campaign show, interspersed with a bit of witty jokes. At a campaign stop in Blountville, Alf told the crowd,
"I say to you now that after all these eventful struggles, I still love my brother as of old with an undying affection. But politically, my friends, I despise him."
And Bob's response,
"I thank God that it's been reserved for Tennessee to declare to the world that politics cannot sever the tender relations of brotherhood. I love the man who's borne the Republican standard as dearly as in the old days long ago when we slept side by side in the same trundle bed and shared our youthful joys and griefs. I have never seen the hour that I would not willingly lay down my life to save him, nor the dawn of the day that I would not lay down my life to destroy his party." In the end, though, Rod, the War of the Roses was won by Robert L. Taylor by 13,000 votes.
Wow.
This would be the first of 3 terms he'd serve as Tennessee governor. He died in 1912 toward the end of his first term as Tennessee senator. Alfred A. Taylor went on to win the governorship in his own right in 1921 at the age of 72. And folks, that's the story of the War of the Roses between 2 Carter County brothers seeking to be governor of Tennessee. Another bit of the history of this place we call home, Appalachia. Thanks for watching. If you like our stories, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be sure to ding that bell as well so you get notified whenever we have a new story out. Till next we meet, y'all take care. So long, everybody.